Hi everyone, I'm Marcy and I'm so excited to share today's recipe with you because I'm doing something a little different. I've got a special guest who's going to be joining me via Zoom to share her recipe for torrejas. Now some people also call these tortas de huevo. They're basically egg fritters that you smother with a delicious red chili sauce. You're not only going to love this dish, I think you're really going to love her story. My guest today is Mary Louise Sanchez, author of an award-winning book titled The Wind Called My Name. And she joins us via Zoom from her home in Colorado, where she lives now. Hi, Mary Louise.
Well, hi, Marcy and Tony. Good to be here.
I thought I would have you start by telling us about torrejas. This is a very New Mexican recipe, but I would imagine its roots come from Spain.
I would imagine so too with the name Torrejas. I do believe that the name Torrejas comes from Spain, although our family sometimes would call them Torta de Huevo. This was a typical dish that was eaten during Lent, particularly on Good Friday.
And the making of torrejas is actually mentioned in the book, which I definitely want to have her talk to you about so you know more about the story. But you weave food in and out of that story, which is wonderful. First, though, go over what ingredients we're going to need to make these.
The first thing you will need are 3 eggs, and those should be separated and at room temperature. Then you'll need about 2 tablespoons of flour, a teaspoon of salt, and about 6 tablespoons of oil to fry these torrejas. And then for the red chili sauce, you'll need 2 tablespoons of oil, 2 tablespoons of all-purpose flour, 3 tablespoons of good New Mexico red chili powder, a half a teaspoon of garlic powder, a half a teaspoon of salt, and about 1.5 cups of water. This should make about a cup of sauce to balance with the torrejas.
So we're going to get started, and the first thing I'm going to do is separate the eggs, and we're going to beat the whites until they become a little past frothy, real nice and fluffy. And I'm going to be using my electric hand mixer for that. But while I do this, I would really love, Mary Louise, for you to tell us what your book is about and what inspired you to write it.
I have deep New Mexico roots, and I was a teacher librarian, and I never saw myself or my family or my culture in a book except one time, and that was the award-winning And Now Miguel, which is set in the Taos area. And since my mother was born in Fort Steele, Wyoming, and was raised there, she had so many stories of growing up that I thought I would write her a story. And it was like a 7-page little booklet, and I gave it to her for Christmas. And then later I decided to go to workshops and try to expand this story. And I did, and that's how the book came to be. And what it's about is a family, a Sandoval family, who moved from New Mexico to Wyoming because the father has a job on the Union Pacific Railroad. And the wind pushes the family to New Mexico. But when they get to Fort Steele, Wyoming, there's pushback from people.
Now, one of the things that I learned about you is, and many of the people who watch this channel, they're from northern New Mexico, so they would be familiar with this. In Old Town Albuquerque, there is a mural of the early settlers, and your family is actually painted in that mural.
Yes, one of the oldest ones is the Chavez family, but there's also Hurtado, and I'd have to look at my genealogy, but they're Maldonados. I don't think they're listed as a name, but they're there. I just have so many family members on that mural that I'm related to.
That is so great. And I have to say that your book was so relatable to me, especially because there's so much Spanglish in it and a lot of dichos that I grew up with. And that was a lot of fun for me to see written in a book. But anyway, I'm going to continue with the recipe here, and I'm going to add in the egg yolks to my whites, and then I'll add in the flour and the salt. This egg batter is all ready to go, so I'm gonna go ahead and heat up my frying pan in the oil and get that started. But while I do that, I would love for Mary Louise to read a little excerpt from her book because she actually talks about making torrejas in this story.
This scene takes place in the house after the main character, Margarita, who's my mother, she meets a girl in this new Wyoming town, and the girl rebuffs her. Set the table, por favor, Mama says, speaking in both languages. Felicita and I set the table with more mason jars for water glasses. Felicita, los huevos, Mama says. My sister beat the yolks in one bowl, and I beat the whites in another. Mama folded them together as she melted lard in a skillet. When it was hot enough, she ladled mounds of the puffy egg mixture into the pan. After the eggs browned on the bottom, Mama gently turned them. They reminded me of how puffed up I was with myself and so sure I'd make a friend quickly. The kitchen smells made me homesick for our relatives, and especially my abuelita Cruzita. But the smells made me feel close to them too. Maybe at that very moment, my tias were making the very same things we were going to eat. Everyone else was seated when Felicita and I helped Mama set the food on the table. Then Papa said grace. Amen, we all said as we made the sign of the cross. Ernesto smothered his egg with red chile Caribe gravy. This must be Good Saturday. Felicita rolled her eyes. It isn't Lent. You're thinking about Good Friday. Papa laughed. No, it isn't Good Friday, but it is a very good Saturday.
Oh, I could picture the whole thing as you were reading that. And I could smell it too because these are coming along great. Got these torrejas all done. They look nice and beautiful and fluffy. And I made some of Mary's red chili sauce earlier just to save time. But let me go over real quickly how I made it. You heat the oil in a skillet over low-medium heat. Add the flour and blend for about a minute. Then add in the chili powder and stir for 30 seconds, keeping in mind that chili scorches easily and you don't want it to have a bitter taste. So have your water ready to go and then carefully pour it in. Stir with a whisk to break up any lumps. In fact, it's really helpful if you have one of these gravy whisks. It'll get rid of all that for you. Add the garlic powder and the salt and mix to combine. Let that cook for just a bit more. And you should be left with a delicious, smooth red chili sauce. I'm gonna go ahead and pour this beautiful chili all over my torrejas. And I'm ready to eat. So first I have to show Mary Louise what my plate looks like. Did I get it right?
I believe so, and I'm hungry.
So am I. I wish I could share this with you, but I'm going to go ahead and give this a taste. These are so good. I really love that the eggs are just light and airy. And then you've got this wonderful chili sauce, which I'm so glad you shared your recipe, Mary Louise, because this is just wonderful. I think people are really going to enjoy this at home. And I have to tell you that so many of the viewers to this channel are people who either grew up in New Mexico, are there now, or they moved away and they miss the food from back home. They miss these old-fashioned recipes just like this one. So I think it's wonderful that your book really speaks to that. And I just loved your book on so many levels. I know that you wrote it specifically for middle-aged children, But I have to say, it doesn't matter what age you are, you will absolutely love this book, especially if you have ties to New Mexico. So tell us where people can find this book.
You can buy it from my publisher, Lee & Low Books. It's on Amazon, independent bookstores, bookshop.org, and even the library should have a copy. And if they don't, request that they buy it and then read it.
Well, I'll be sure to put all the information and links in the description box beneath this video. Also, a way for you to find out more about Mary Louise Sanchez. She's just a beautiful person inside and out. And I congratulate you on your success of this book. And I thank you so much for sharing this recipe with me.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for watching. Be sure to give this video a thumbs up if you liked it and subscribe if you haven't already. You can also follow me at Marcy Inspired on Instagram and on Facebook. Until next time, blessings from my kitchen to yours. Now I gotta keep eating.